Now, the baby boom generation is getting ready to retire. It's a big concern and a big issue, simply because that generation has been the dominant demographic since the late 60s, and now they're starting to feel the anxiety. Robyn Thompson, certified financial planner at Castlemark Wealth Management, joins us live to share her 6 pre-retirement questions you must answer before you retire. Robyn, let's start with question number 1. What is the most important question you need to ask yourself when it comes to retirement?
Well, Peter, there's a lot of people that are in their new career after their old career because they didn't ask themselves the right retirement questions. These are questions that will affect your future. So questions like, do I have enough money to retire? What happens if I run out of money in retirement? What if my health fails in retirement? And even, how do I make sure that my golden years are in fact golden and they're not the boredom years or the rusty years? Now, in order to figure out what the implication of that is in your life, you need to sit down and do what's called a financial plan. And clients that come into my office ask me, well, seeing that I'm so close to retirement, does it really make sense to do a financial plan this late? And my answer is, it's always the right time to do a financial plan, especially now, because you are at a place where you have amassed some wealth, you presumably have very little debt, and you can sit down and take a really hard look at your assets, your liabilities if you have any, your expenses, your income now and in the future. So you can put together a really solid plan. Now keep in mind that people are living longer, so the amount of time that you're going to have your assets last will be over a longer period of time. Men are living well into their 80s and women are living well into their 90s. So you need to start asking those questions now.
Now, what if there's a chance that you'll outlive your savings?
Well, that's a very good question, and a lot of people going into retirement ask that question. I mean, if you have amassed some wealth inside of a nest egg, whether it be your RSPs, your tax-free savings accounts, your non-registered investments, you're not carrying any consumer debt, you've paid off your mortgage so your house is free and clear, then you're likely not to have any challenges in retirement as long as you keep your spending under control, because your net worth is somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million, and you can easily reallocate your asset allocation to be able to provide the income or growth that you need. If you have $300,000 and no consumer debt and mortgage free, then you're probably still going to be okay, but you will need to make sure that you watch your spending habits, take a look at inflation, make sure your return objectives are on target, and just make sure that year over year that you are staying on target. If you fall below the $300,000 mark and you're going into retirement with consumer debt and mortgage debt, you will need to sit down with a financial planner before you make any retirement decisions. Now, that's not saying that you won't be able to retire with less than $300,000. If you have a company pension coupled with your CPP and your OAS, then you might have enough, and your $300,000 is your play money. But make sure that you know what you're getting into before you retire.
Now, what about people with debt? A lot of people think that they should aggressively pay that off first before they think about saving. Is that the right approach?
Well, I think you need to take a look at what is the interest rate that's associated with your debt and what's the interest rate you're going to get in the market. So you need to have a very good balance between paying off, say, high credit cards and saving for the future. So you need to take a look at both paying off the debt and saving for the future at the same time. But definitely if you have 18-19% in interest rates on high consumer credit cards, pay those off at first.
And what about something most of us don't want to think about, long-term care?
Absolutely. When you think about long-term care and what it costs to go into a private nursing care facility here in Canada, that could run up to $70,000 a year. That's a lot of money for people. So if you sit down and you take a look at your investment assets, how much time will $70,000 a year buy you? The answer to that question is probably not that much time. So this is where long-term care insurance can come in and supplement your other retirement income and provide with enough funding so you're able to take care of yourself over your lifetime with the type of health care that you would like to have.
Okay. To what degree will inflation erode your savings?
Well, Peter, the short answer is quite significantly, actually. If we take a look at what the inflation rate here is in Canada, it's been hovering around 2% since 1993. So what that means is that your dollar today will be worth 2% less next year. So in order for your investment, your nest egg, to keep up its purchasing power to stay level, you're going to need to return 2% after taxes with your investments just to stay on an even keel. Now, if you want to have your investments provide income for you or growth for you in retirement, then you're going to need to have a return in excess of 2% after taxes. And this is really where we tie back to the financial plan, because if you have a very well-diversified financial plan, the asset allocation that you've selected with your advisor will provide for you a return that's targeted to be after taxes, after inflation, so you can be comfortable when you go to retirement that you have made the proper plans through insurance and through investments and through inflation and everything you need to do to sail off into the retirement landscape.
before we finish up here, what is the best strategy for saving? I know it's a complicated issue dependent on numerous factors, but are there some general tips that you could provide people out there?
Absolutely, Peter. I think that when you look at savings, you have to put it into a disciplined process. So make sure it's something that becomes automatic for you. So every 2 weeks when you get paid, you have money that comes out of your paycheck that goes directly into your investment accounts. If you're employed and you have a company-sponsored pension plan, make sure you're maxing that out if they're giving you a maximum matching amount, because then you're getting extra money that you wouldn't otherwise have. The number one key to savings is to make it a disciplined process where you're doing it ongoingly, week after week, because then you won't start to miss the money, and it can really grow and compound over longer periods of time.
Okay. And TFSA versus RRSP, which one do you recommend?
Well, you need to have both RSPs and tax-free savings accounts. When you look at a tax-free savings account, what you're really doing is you're building wealth that doesn't have any tax consequences to it. When you're looking at an RSP, what you're using is you're putting money into an RSP and you're getting a deduction back, and you're building money that you will eventually have to pay tax on. So my suggestion would be is to put money into your RRSP, use the deduction, and top up your tax-free savings account. But you do need to have both. The question about how much to put in each of those vehicles will really depend on how much money you're making and how much time you have to retirement and what your savings targets are.
Thanks a lot, Robyn. That's great advice.
It was nice to see you, Peter.
Yeah, you too. We've been talking to Robyn Thompson, Certified Financial Planner at Castlemark Wealth Management, about the 6th question you have to ask when you're planning for retirement.